think it will come out as a song.
It will not come out as like sound.
Yes.
Why?
But maybe I will speak to this guy. I'll speak to
Speak
that.
to him then. Because we're starting officially by 9, you get.
Panelists and our speakers this morning, started with Dr. Ayo, who was once an economic advisor to the government and who has done extensive work looking at the macroeconomics, and also was part of those who created the blueprint for the emergence of SME businesses and Microfinance Bank in Nigeria. So I welcome you, Mr. Ayo. Thank you very much. Mr. Suleiman, you're someone that reminds me, interestingly, of stories that I've rehearsed several times. And I was saying that in his days, Jesus was very popular. But then when he was to be betrayed, he had to take someone to go and kiss him. Why? Because they didn't still recognize him. He was probably lost always in the multitude. So it was difficult to pick him out. And so when this man came in this morning and he stood at the registration table, it was very easy for those carrying out the registration to say, please, who are you? And that speaks to the height of humility, speaks to openness, speaks to what we need in this country. And I salute that path of remaining calm, even with the huge success you've made. The humility is unparalleled. Thank you very much. We invited you first because I've personally seen you speak on a few occasions, and you have addressed issues in a very practical manner, but more importantly because 40% of Microfinance Bank in Lagos State bank with Sterling Bank. And they speak to your support, they speak to the technology and openness of your staff and your colleagues in trying to help them build and also support them and partner with them in the area of technology, whether through channels payment or supporting the core banking system or use of ATM and POS and a few other things. And that's quite commendable. So we are here today to hear not just your perspective on the economy, but what is Sterling Bank doing right. And maybe at the end of the day, Axiom will go back to the Lord and say, we must open an account with Sterling Bank. My own pastor, Bio, who will be president of Council Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. I remember when I called you and said, we're putting this program together. You said, I will be there physically. And thanks for coming. During your tenure, the support to the microfinance institutions have been very, very good, highly commendable. We thank you. We hope to continue to see this kind of support. I recall 2019, the Institute gave us the use of their theater for free to have one of our seminars. So thank you for the support, and we're glad you're here this morning. Madam Isaka, thank you. Even though when you came in, the first thing you asked me was, have you paid your premium? I'm happy you're keeping me on my toes. The premium will be paid next week on Facebook. Thank you very much. And so, my dear colleagues, thank you for coming. Thank you for believing in us. Nigerian economy is very fragile today. And I was at the National Economic Summit Group. 3 years ago, there were over 70 million people living below poverty line. 3 years after, it has increased to 90 million people living below poverty line. So we've seen an astronomical increase in people living at the bottom of the pyramid who live on less than $100 in a month. I keep wondering how the future will unfold if we continue like this without us playing a critical role in making microfinance very, very available, the products of microfinance very available to those who are at the bottom of the pyramid and to those who really need us to give them future, to take them out of poverty, to alleviate their suffering, and to help them on the path of economic recovery by allowing them to have access to finance that they do not have and other products and services that has eluded them. And so today, some 15 years ago, we talked about microfinance as strictly focusing on loan. But today we talk about micro-pension. Today we talk about micro-insurance. And it just keeps showing, it keeps coming up to me most times that we're going to have actually micro everything that we need to drive. Because that segment of the economy, even though it's a sad news, but creates a bigger opportunity for the microfinance and micro organizations who wants to focus on financing, who wants to focus on pension, and who wants to focus on insurance. So this industry has potentials to assist in revamping the Nigerian economy. We have over 800 microfinance banks. My thoughts are this. So a 90 million people who need microfinance business, that number is actually very small. But we typically want to follow the path of least resistance. And then because of very fragile regulatory oversight, there's been moves to reduce the number through consolidation and stuff like that. But I think that's following the path of least resistance. I think what we need to do is strengthen that institution and see how we can even increase, either by use of tech, by use of digital innovation, the number of touch points in terms of microfinance. The solution to what we face as a challenge today in the industry is not in the reduction of numbers, but in strengthening the institution of microfinance. Because 800 microfinance banks divided by 90 million people is just a drop in the head, in the bucket. But you can imagine if working with our regulators, working with banks who are ready to partner with us, working with fintech organizations, we can build a very solid and virile and strengthened microfinance institution that will reach out to the nooks and crannies and be able to create value, be able to bring people out of poverty, and be able to finance and fund cottage businesses and industry. So I think we have that. But despite all those challenges, available data shows that the sector is still relevant, clearly very relevant, and we're still contributing to the growth of the Nigerian economy. Microfinance sector remains a catalyst for economic growth. And why I said that we're small in terms of number, and we actually need more. And that's the reason why you see a lot of commercial banks and a lot of fintechs doing what we do. So in terms of what the needs are growing, and I've seen opportunity there. And today I hope that we'll leave this place re-energized, and refocusing our business, and also focusing on what is right and what we need to do very differently. So, I want to quote what Microfinance said. That's the former UN Secretary General. He said, sustainable access to microfinance helps alleviate poverty by generating income, creating jobs, allowing children to go to school, enabling families to obtain health care, and empowering people to make the choices that best serve their needs. And that is exactly. So our role is both social and also economic in nature. And I think I read sometimes, I think it was October last year, and they were analyzing financial institutions that employed large number of people. And I think Lapo was named third as a financial institution, having over 10,000 employees, and that's a microfinance bank. And so we create employment. Don't worry, we're also recruiting, but we're not in 10,000. So I don't want to bore you. It's not my turn to make a speech. I'm not designed to make a speech today. But the discussion here today will provide more insight into the inherent potentials at the disposal of the sector in Nigeria. The great minds are here. Please pay attention and get the best from them. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jordan, for setting the ball rolling. The time has come for us to actually have Dr. Oteriba to do what he knows how to do best, analyzing Nigerian economy. So, in reality, the keynote address, revamping the Nigerian economy and the impact of microfinance. Sir, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the podium. While we are doing that, one of the special personalities in this sector and in this country came in. I call him, or most of all call him, the Doyen of microfinance. Please join me in welcoming our President Emeritus, Dr. Valentine Osu. He's the Vice President of the National Body. Welcome, sir. And you see, most of us just walk in today. As I came in, I just went straight to the breakfast session. I had my breakfast, sat down, and started networking with ease. I remember Koke told me that he came in yesterday so that I can get there early, so that we can start arranging the table. On getting there, he realized that everything had been set. Esther, don't mind me. You see, the face of the business is KP. We call ourselves by first name. Okay, I go to the CEO of Main Street and the General Secretary. Esther is the Treasurer. Mrs. Aisha. Mr. Langway said, what are we going to get there? How do we get there by 6 so that we can make sure things are set? I said, don't worry, it's been covered. And she came prepared past 8. She realized that breakfast is set. We only plan and organize the program, just send a few letters out. Some people are just following up, calling them, meeting with their PAs, getting sponsors. Wow. We got here, they were just taking our photographs. Want to specially thank the Axiom team. Axiom has they did not make it happen financially. They contributed physically, mentally, and enough a set of making it happen. Fisayo, and to your team, thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Are we set?
Yes, we are.
So we have the keynote address, Dr. Ayoteliba. Welcome, sir.
The president, the executives, members of the Association of Microfinance Banks, Nigeria, grateful for the invitation to be here, to be part of this conversation, for the role that your sector can play as we find a way forward for the Nigerian economy. And the president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers, the president, the MD of Stakeholder, and I was going to say before the arrival of it's obvious that I'm not a banker for my dressing. I was the only one in the hall who wasn't wearing the suit. But I'm glad that I'm back now. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Nigeria is coming out in 2022. We live, in a reality in which the opportunities to move the economy forward abound anywhere you look at. Yet, the narratives run contrary to the reality. Nigeria should not be the country that we are saying we have 800 million poor people, or 800 million below the poverty line. Nigeria, with the right choices, within 3 months, within 6 months, Nigeria can reenact the story of China, who once had 700 million people below the poverty line, and has gleefully and proudly announced today that there is nobody in China below the poverty line. Nigeria can reenact the history of India, who used to, after China lifted its populace out of poverty, India was the next country with the most poor in the world. And they have dropped that toga for Nigeria to wear, unfortunately. So, but the point is that China was there before us, and it was worse for China. India was there before us, and it was worse for them. We are there now. So, however they managed, I'm not telling you distant history. third country that is worth mentioning as an example is Brazil. Nigeria and Brazil has similar population size. Maybe they have 10 million people on the laws. Theirs wasn't the number of poor. Theirs was that they were the worst debtor among the developing countries in the world as recently as 30 years ago. And right now, they too have dropped that total. They're liquid. They're the top 10 economy in terms of GDP. And China, India, and Brazil are the only three countries in top 10 in terms of economic size. And are perhaps the best examples, among developing countries or emerging markets. And they failed, but they managed to turn their failure to success. And I should say they failed more than us. May we not descend to the depths of failure that China recorded when it was still deluding itself with its communist leaning and turning its back on market. May we not have the crisis that India had when it was deluding itself, socialist leaning, and turn its back on the external world and on markets. What you find in common is that the turnaround of China, turnaround of India, the turnaround of Brazil, the common element is that it didn't come from inward-looking solutions. It came from some strategic global repositioning, greater vigilance about what opportunities are presented on the global scene, and being very, very proactive in seizing those opportunities ahead of others. And I have more to say. So as we stand here today, can we go to the outline page? I'll be speaking about the outlook in 4 segments. The first is, what are the global trends to watch? As I say, the strength of China is by leveraging on global opportunities. The strength of India is by connecting and realizing better with global realities. And the strength of Brazil is the same. And it cannot be different for Nigeria. The example that I read recently that is that if you look at the fireplace with wood in the fire, all aglow, flame, well alive. If you remove one of the wood from the fire, you will soon find that the flame will go out, it will lose its glow, and will eventually become covered by ashes. That's the fate suffered by China when it disconnected from the global scene. It was the fate suffered by India when it disconnected, and it was the fate suffered by Brazil when it disconnected. All you need to do is not to try to find solution without log of wood or piece of wood in isolation. Just pick the wood and plug it back into the fire, and you will see the fire ignited. The do not see any solution for Nigeria that does not involve reconnecting to unfolding global realities. So, the first point is, what are the global trends? The second is, what are the national trends we should watch? And the third is similar to it. What are the subnational trends that we should watch? And the final one is, what are the sectoral trends that we should watch? The kind of work that we do at EA, these are 4 or 5 volumes that we work on. The missing one is continental trends to watch. You can expand the sectoral areas further, include markets, include your sector, banking, and the rest. But I'll be keeping my story short because I would also like, to benefit from the wisdom of the other speakers that will be able to better address some aspects of the things you are curious about. So I will be dwelling primarily on the economy. I'll make an effort to relate it to your sector, but I will not be pretending that I know your sector better than you do. My presumption is that you know your sector better than I do. And so we should be trying to pool forces together. And I'm glad the president of the Senate is here. Glad to Senate Bank is here, who also should know your sector much better than I do. And at the end of the day, I believe that we should get a holistic picture, at least to address issues that you may raise, about the implications of some of the things I say for your sector. I was privileged to coordinate the technical work group on the medium-term development plan. I coordinated the financial sector and capital markets segment. And so much of the things I'll be saying about your sector were the recommendations that we came up with in that work group. Let's go to global. Global trends. Watch. And the quote under the heading is that the arrogance of success is to think that what you did to be successful yesterday will be sufficient for tomorrow. So when you are assessing economic outlook, you need to be sufficiently open-minded to ask what are the only realities that make some of the things that were right yesterday not so right today, if not outrightly wrong today. So on this page, I'll sum up the unfolding global trends in 2 ways. The first one is that financialization is eclipsing industrialization. Well, it's actually not the first one. The point, the 2 points. So the reason why the industrialization component is ebbing, and the financialization component is surging at the 2 points. So the point is, 40 years ago, the last time, that you could succeed just by industrializing and refining to succeed, depending on transactions. Transactions are production or trading. The last time that you could do that was the only way to succeed. There wasn't any alternative. It was 1990. So up to 1990, you discovered among developing countries there was export of energy. And what you exported at the time were manufacturers. So that was the peak of industrialization, the peak of the industrial age. As of that time, you did not have the financialization alternative. If your export failed, the only option for you is to seek aid and donor fund. So you ended up on the operating table of the IMF and the World Bank. And Nigeria knows that story. FDI as of 1990 was about half of world exports. And I'm talking of FDI stock. It was 2 trillion and exports were 4 trillion. So annual export flows was twice as large as the FDI stock. So it's taking the world until 1990 to accumulate 2 trillion of FDI. But things changed in that decade. By the year 2000, exports and FDI became equal because of the advent of the internet. And it was fueled, by the accession of .com. So the 2 trillion in FDI that the world had in 1990 were actually made by the multinationals that owned the 4 trillion exports. So they were the ones investing, doing FDI investment in their destination markets. So jump the tariff war. So there were investments of the Coca-Colas of this world, the Heineken of this world, the Nestle, name them. So there was no independent financial stock, from exports. So even then, FDI was driven by exports. But with the advent of the .com companies, there was an independent source. And that independent source, it took the world nearly 2,000 years to build 2 trillion FDI. Over the 10 years from 1990 to 2000, the world added 5 trillion. And from 2000 to 2010, the world added 13 trillion. So FDI became equal to exports as of 2000. By 2010, they were both equal again at 20 trillion. And between 2010 and now, exports got stuck. It peaked at 25 trillion and it's now about 23 trillion. Got say lockdown. FDI is at 42 trillion. So over the past decade, FDI stock doubled from 20 to 42. So it means that the world annual average FDI formation is 2 trillion. same vehicle that it took like nearly 2,000 years to accumulate. So things have changed. And the reasons exports of industry is stagnating and is in decline comes down to technology. Technological advancements has equipped the world with the capacity to produce goods that the world didn't have as of 1990. Take oil, for example. We didn't know anything about shale technology as of 1990. It's the dominant source of increased output. And the world's capacity to produce oil is in excess of the world's capacity to consume it, creating a glut and the price of oil. And I see that was not enough. Technological advancements has given the world cleaner, renewable energy sources. Solar, for example, that is shifting demand away from oil. So if OPEC is not cooperating with some non-OPEC countries, the world oil market will be in a glut. And in the face of that situation, the world is shifting away from oil. So the medium to long term outlook of oil price bleak. It's not just oil. For crops, there are genetically modified alternatives to the organics. For livestock, there are genetically modified alternatives. You don't have to wait for cattle to grow for you to eat meat. People now have the technology to take a tiny piece of meat and ask you, how many metric tons of meat do you want? And meat will arrive. And this is more environmentally friendly. You know, growing meat in the lab and the rest of it. So the prospect of also the commodity prices is undermined by technological advancements. Are we together? Yeah. So, and the way that has played out in your books, in the books of companies, in the books of countries, is that the gains, the margins from production and trading transactions have steadily declined over the past 2 decades, notably. On the contrary, technology has bequeathed us with the internet, and the internet is making assets at far ends of the world, which were previously illiquid, become liquid. So technology is unlocking global liquidity. And while commodity prices, that's the first chapter, are slumped, in the past 1 decade, asset prices are shot for the sky. And the way you interpret both is that global commodity prices gives you an impression of the margins you should be expecting from transactions. While equity index gives you an impression of the valuation, the size of the valuation gains you'll be expecting to make. This marks the difference between success and failure. And I give one, dramatic example that, a McKinsey report released in December said that China is now the wealthiest country in the world. That it has managed to grow its national wealth from 7 trillion in year 2000 trillion dollars to 120 trillion in 2020. So in 2 decades, China managed to grow its national assets from 7 trillion to 15 Whereas the United States, that was the biggest, it was the wealthiest country in the world as of 2000, managed to double its national wealth from 45 trillion to 90 trillion. So China has reaped more of the valuation gains than the US, and now is $30 trillion wealthier than the United States. Yes, US still has the bigger GDP. China has about 15-16 trillion. US has 22 trillion, 22 trillion. But the point is, your economy is not your GDP. Your GDP is merely the output you can extract from your economy in 1 year. Your economy is what you are extracting the GDP from. Is what you are extracting the GDP from, which is your national assets. So when Adam Smith wrote this classic, he did not write on the income of nations. He wrote on the wealth of nations. Wealth are assets. Income is like the river. Assets are like the spring of the river. So what it says is that China, from the wealth base of 7 trillion compared to 45 trillion, has managed, has optimized its assets better in the last decades, in particular the United States. And if you have more assets than another, eventually the output you extract from that asset will be bigger than the output that the other country can extract from it. So that's true or false. So it's a matter of time. China will overtake the United States as the country with the biggest GDP. Now, so what does this say to us? That the world offers, if you look at 14 trillion in FBI stock as of 2020, compared with 23 trillion in exports. Opportunities offered in financialization is now about twice as large as the opportunities offered in industrialization, which is the opposite of where we were in 1990. Where you can't even call the 2 trillion FBI financialization because it was dependent on exports. Next page. When you cannot control the direction of the winds, you should adjust yourselves. So you can try. We've shown the diverging trends of commodity prices and asset prices. Look at your balance sheet and ask the question: had I been aware? Had I interpreted this in a forward-looking way and responded, that surging world equity index, the growth of my balance sheet catch pace with that leading indicator. If you look, you don't need to look too hard. You will find that the growth of your income statement, whether you do anything or you don't do anything, will reflect declining global margins. Right? So going forward, I'm saying that you can gain from your income statement. But those gains, which used to be the main type of gains we made for business, historically, are thinning out. There is now more gain from your balance sheet that is not any longer on the income statement. And if you look at the leading companies in the world, list them, ask yourself, where do they get more from? From the income statement or from the balance sheet? Are we together? Take an Apple or Amazon or Microsoft, Google. Where do they get more from? Sales. Apple is described as a factory-less manufacturer. It franchises the production of its devices. Okay, so what does it make money from? From franchising its patents. Patents are assets. But does Microsoft? They make money from the platforms they own. Other people come to do transactions on their platform, but their platform providers, they provide assets, and the gains that they make over time. I'm saying Nigeria is in the situation we are today of getting in and out of recession, of recurrent bouts of devaluation, of increasing poverty, because we cling to the income statement. And the balance sheet has remained a bright spot for us. It's as though we do not have a balance sheet. The world knows how much you owe. Who knows how much you own? Saudi Arabia, facing the same situation, is turning away from relying on oil exports and has listed Aramco a couple of years ago. Recently Aramco was valued more than most capitalized, the highest market value in the world, followed by Apple. So, Saudi is depending more on valuation gains from the asset value of Aramco than is depending on transactions. That is pumping up the value. I saw a video clip recently that the Aramco CEO is saying that their target is to become a major exporter of electricity. So that's trying to change the narrative from oil to solar. And he said, where do you find solar if not in the desert? Okay, so they're saying that we will remain active and dominant in the energy space. We shift from the dirty energy to the cleaner and all that pump up Aramco market. And you see showing up eating sukuks. They sold only 1.5% of Aramco. They own 98.5%. Which corporate asset does Nigeria have that we know its market value? Much less gain on the valuation of its market value. Can you imagine an Apple not quoted on the stock market? Or Microsoft? Can you imagine how miserable, how poor the owners will be? And when Aramco shows up in the global supermarket, they went to issue $6 billion. And the reason they gave was to say, we want to keep our pledge to be paying $75 billion in dividends every year. That's why they are coming to borrow to issue sukuk. But who are you going to pay dividends to? The government issued an IPO of just 1.5%, 19.5% is owned by government. So you're raising sukuk so you can pay all that dollars to the Saudi government. That's financialization. Rather than trying to produce to sell, you are trying to unlock liquidity from the asset that you own. You can draw a long list of money. real estate. China, India, the United States, the UK make a lot of money from financialization of real estate. UK has shut down about a dozen prisons in the last 1 decade to relocate them and free the prime land that they're sitting on for commercial exploitation. They say they will use the proceeds to reduce the national debt. The United States has a commission, they call it Base Realignment and Closure Commission, that is turning military bases into great places. We have a prime parcel of land next to Cool Atlantic City. Everybody has an idea what a piece of land in the Cool Atlantic City is worth. We have a premium parcel of land next to Nigerian. Everybody has an idea what the plot goes for. Nigeria. What do we use those 2 premium pieces of land? Military base. And then you show up in European market, you want to borrow just $3 billion. And you look at you. Relocate those bases. Free them. And use, I would say sell them. Redevelop them for lease. And you begin to generate revenue from them to fund your project. Think assets. The third type of asset that I've given the example of corporate asset, of real asset, lands and built structures. Places. Which country in the world does not make money from its city center? Which does not make money from its transit routes or from its forests? Except we. Our city centers have been taken over by hoodlums. Our transit routes by bandits, and our forests by axemen. That's the difference between Lagos. The question is, your places, do they enable wealth creation or they disable wealth creation? This country hasn't cordoned up the city center. You can't even have vehicular access. You get to the city center, you feel that you are in the mall or top-end shopping, top-end picnic, you are safe. When you are not, that's the difference between Dubai and Lagos. You are safe, you are secure. Places in Dubai enable wealth creation. Places in Nigeria disable wealth creation. You get dropped on a cold beach at 2 p.m. and you laugh. So turn to assets. Stop trying to get more from trying transactions. We do annual finance act every year. We're not talking of sin tax, we're talking of alcohol tax, we're talking of figure tax. There is no tax that you can introduce that will give you more revenue from an economy that is in a recession. Are we together? You should tell yourself this economy is in a recession and just suffer devaluation. Most countries will give tax holiday in this situation. They will borrow to give subsidy. The United States has injected $5 trillion in 2 years. $5 trillion is a quarter of the economy. That's what you should be doing. Don't try taxing transactions. Go for non-tax revenue and you have it in abundance. And next time. I think I've just, basically spoken to the national debt. Next slide. We go to the sectoral festival. Keep going. We see some backers, and I want to close on that. Then connect to keep going. I've spoken to all those speakers. Keep going. Just keep going. Yes, this week. Thank you. Right, before I close up on this, Nigeria is announcing a budget of 17 trillion. It would be nice if the government can spend 17 trillion. The problem is just that last year average of 500, half a billion, half a trillion a month, 500 billion a month. So if you add 500 billion for December, the revenue capacity of the government is about 6 trillion. That's the reality. But then the budget will put 10 trillion. Unless you take steps, that's why I said within 3-6 months, you can change the narrative. Unless you take steps to turn to assets and unlock liquidity from them, you are not going to get 10 trillion. And you want to spend 17 trillion. Last year, for you to spend 13 trillion, you had to borrow 7 trillion in addition to your 6 trillion. So maybe you borrow another 7 trillion. So maybe you get another 6-7 trillion. Borrow 7 trillion, you can spend 14 trillion, not 17 trillion. There's a realism question, about that budget. And I'm not even sure you can borrow another 7 trillion. Because with your 7 trillion debt last year, interest payments took 4.2 trillion. 5.5 trillion you had collected by November. 76% interest payment. So if you added that average of 400 billion a month interest, you would have spent 4.6 trillion out of 6 trillion. So you compact land and see, you want to tax tobacco, you want to tax alcohol, you want to get revenue, and you turn around and surrender it on interest payment. So 2 problems that Nigeria needs to solve. Know where to get revenue from. The economy is not 60 trillion. And that's even small compared with the assets that we have with our idle. So if you spend a fraction of the time you are spending on Finance Act, which is meant to get taxes, you spend it on Investment Act, the narrative will change. You'll be talking of 30 trillion naira annual revenue. And the states will be saying similar things. But nobody's talking about investment. Everybody's just looking at balance sheet. The life doesn't start and end on the balance sheet. Turn to, just looking at this income statement. Go to the balance sheet. Then there's no country in the world today that can say it's not borrowing. It's inevitable that we will borrow. Given that inevitability, learn to do it correctly. We are borrowing in the wrong way. 100% of our debt are IOUs. Promissory notes. Malaysia borrows more than us. Saudi borrows more than us. Each of them probably borrows in 1 year our current total desktop. Domestic was external. So they don't have debt cost in their budgets because they issue investment grade debt rated by Fitch as investment grade. So they borrow close to the figure that the US government will borrow, less than 3%. But because you don't issue, the world categorizes debt into 2. Is either your debt is investment grade. Anything below investment grade is called what? It's called junk bonds. So we have a 100% portfolio of junks. That's a failure of debt management. And that's why you're surrendering all your revenue. In 2020, we paid 4 trillion in interest payment. Our revenue was 3.9 trillion, 3.99. So, and the difference between a junk bond and an investment grade bond is that one is linked to assets, the other is not. And we are very close to the National Development Plan says government will come up just about 20% of the money. The private sector will come up with the rest. Question is, where is that pathway for the private sector funding national assets? And then you are just one step from what India is doing. They have a website, India Investment, with about 18,000 local assets that they are connecting with global liquidity. Brazil is the same website. And they are not doing as much as China in connecting local assets globally. So 3 things: learn to manage revenue by unlocking non-oil revenue. 2, learn to manage debt by using investment-grade debt. And 3, assets are common to non-oil revenue, to investment-grade debt, and to the pathway for the private sector. Offer equity investment opportunities to private sector. Nigerian government only offer debt issuance opportunity, never equity. You come to the Eurobonds, it gets oversubscribed. Offer equity and you'll be shocked it's going to be oversubscribed. And the difference between investment grade, the investment grade debt is therefore a securitized debt. The difference between equity and the securitized debt is convertibility. It's just a clause. Whether on maturity the debt is redeemable or is convertible to equity, it's equivalent to equity. My conclusion is that our sectoral bills for 2020, I think 2021 will come up in the next week or 2, is that the 5 big sectors are instructive: agriculture, manufacturing, and trade, plus 2 sectors, real estate and ICT. So you have the traditional production sectors, say primary, secondary, tertiary, that's agri industry services, which are sunset sectors. The margins from them will never in out. The value added in them will never hit out. You have 2 new sectors ascending. The ICT, as more economic activities migrate from place to space. Digital sector will grow more. Then the other one is construction and real estate. True, activities are migrating from places to space. But even for the companies, the digital companies play in space, they need a place to launch. Is that it? Yeah. So there is demand for place. Dubai is making its places premium, and the world are rushing there, both for leisure and for production. Let's real estate, construction, sectors of the future. Digital, sectors of the future. Now you are bankers. You will bank. You can only bank what is growing. Is that not? You can't pick and choose. You can't. When you cannot control the direction of the wind, you adjust yourself. And to close it, Nigeria's outlook potentially bright if we address revenue, debt, and pathway for getting equity investment in national assets. And that the thinking about exiting thin income statements and playing more in balance sheet enhancement financing is the pathway forward. And the right things the President already spoke about. in the microfinance space, it's not just micro banking, the microfinance banking is saying that it's pension, it's insurance. The distinction, my committee noticed that we all tend to concentrate on corporate finance. Banks do either government or corporate, or both government and corporate. Markets, the bond market does government, almost to the exclusion of corporates. The equity market does corporate, almost to the exclusion of government. Are we together? So in the microfinance space, balance the offerings we are making for corporate needs with the offerings you are making for personal needs. Consumer finance creates value. So in other parts of the world, when you analyze financing, you can't leave, for example, car loans or student loans, or whatever the workers are going to in the personal finance. So it's not just insurance, it's not just pension. Think about, and we made a major point about some group of financiers need to connect with cooperatives of micro organizations. So I don't know the extent to which your association interfaces with cooperatives, either of farmers, or workers, or teachers, and bank them as a group. Because they may be weak individually, but collectively, you'll be surprised how much strength they can mobilize, and you can help them. I thank you very much for your
Thank you, Dr. Revamping. I wish you had more time, but we have more time. He has actually set the pace for this meeting. You see, there was something interesting in one slide. He showed the trend. Generally, we say, just go and market the food, hotel and restaurants. The best business, no matter what, we are 200 million people. Everybody will eat. That's the best place to invest. But the trend is showing something different. They are just second below the line. So maybe for our funding, we need to watch it too. Maybe no wonder when you see a Mr. Biggs or a McDonald's somewhere, in less than 2 years, you don't find anything. Maybe you have observed it. Thank you, sir. We will definitely share his slides, because there are some salient points that will guide our business focus this year and beyond. But let's joke a bit. Doctor says, I don't know where you are going to get more from your 7 trillion loan last year. He said another one. I don't know where you are going to get your revenue to fund your budget. Whose loan or whose debt? Whose revenue? Us. Not your. It is we, sir. Thank you very much for doing justice to it. Before we have detailed discussion analyzing doctor's paper and the economy, we want to share from his perspective. Whose perspective? It is a pleasure and honor to invite Mr. Abubakar Sulaiman to share his perspective with us.
morning, my president. Good morning, my lecturer. And good morning, my host. Good morning to you all. It's very difficult to be asked to come and stand and share anything after Dr. Teriba has spoken. But as he spoke, there were three things that just kept, I was haunted by three realities. The first thing was that the people that needed to hear what Dr. Teriba was saying are not in this room. And it hurts me because I don't think it's often that people take this granular and grounded approach to discussing economics. A lot of our discussion on economics tend to be superficial. It tends to pick the current theory and just slap Nigerian data on it. But what Dr. Teriba is saying, and I've said this in my private encounter many times, by the way, I'm an aspiring economist. I did study that first degree, but until I hold another degree, I can't claim to be one. I keep saying that Nigeria today cannot show you its balance sheet. Nigeria does not know its balance sheet. There's nobody you can talk to in government today that will say to you, we have estimated the economic value of all the assets that constitute the land of Nigeria, and this is what it is. And there's no way you can start to build a revenue stream from assets that you don't know. Even in human resources, Nigeria does not know the economic potential of its human resources, so it does not treat it like an asset. And it also does not come to say, okay, we've got $5 billion to spend. If we give it to the oil and gas company, it will generate $20 billion in 4 years. If we put that into training Nigerians to become software engineers, it will generate $100 billion. It cannot do that number. Right, so those people are not in this room to listen to this very grounded and really insightful. And I'm sorry to say, even if the media was here, that's not the headline they will carry. It will be whether the vice president is going to come from the south or southeast. That is the conversation that we think as a people is of value to us in the middle of that crisis, not who has an understanding of how value is created. The second one that is even more painful, apart from the fact that they are not here, is that even if they were here, they would not understand it. Like you could sit down and have this conversation 3 hours, break it down to them line by line, and I swear to God, they are not even bad people, they just don't understand it. They don't understand how wealth is created. I think it was the thing that says the economy is stupid. It's exactly the same situation today. Nigeria's primary problem is how to create wealth. And the people that put themselves up for leadership are people who have no interest in having a conversation of how they will create wealth. The question is, did you steal money? If you didn't steal money, where's your vice president coming from? Is that the conversation that lead us out of it? No. And the worst part is the third one is that even if they were here and they did not understand it, they are not looking for the kind of advisors that can give them this kind of advice. Period. So it's unfortunate that you've done such an amazing work, and like everything else great in this country, we'll walk past it and go and do something of lower value. So maybe some McKinsey will release a report about Nigeria, and that's what we're all going to get excited about. But I'm not here to talk about the economy. I'm here to hopefully share my own personal journey in a way that can be useful. But I've also decided that I will end that sharing by making sure that I put something on the table for the benefit of everyone in this room. When I was invited to come here and share experience, the first thing that struck me was that I did not know that 40% of microfinance banks in Lagos practice every bank. I thought it was 100%. So I'm here to ask the remaining 60%, what did we do wrong? But my intention, my hope is that I want us to move beyond the thinking of microfinance bank with Sterling to the thinking of microfinance bank and Sterling have created a platform to enable microfinance bank participate fully. So let's move beyond your banking. Let's move to what platform do we need to enable you to participate fully? Because the problem is that some level of participation is denied to microfinance bank, either by virtue of their size or by virtue of their license or by virtue of their fiscal geography. how can we solve for that? I was once described as a microfinance bank by me and Ms. Sterling Bank, and it made me so happy. There was a time when we were having a campaign, those of people will remember, it was titled Bank Wars. We went to look for trouble, and we called some big boys' names, and they didn't like it. One of them responded by saying that it was a microfinance bank, and I said that is the greatest compliment you can give me. Why? What is banking all about? Banking is about trust. Where does trust come from? It comes from knowing people. It comes from intimacy. That's not a micro affair, it's a micro affair. The only way you can know your customer to build the trust you need for banking is to have a micro relationship. You cannot aggregate your customers into one bucket and say, this is bucket A, and give all of them the same thing. So it is my desire to be seen and perceived as a microfinance bank. And it is not by mistake that Sterling Bank is called the one customer bank. The intention is very clear. We may not yet have achieved where we want to be, but our intentions are very clear. We want to be able to find a way to do banking so that every single person we bank feels that we actually see them. And it's hard, it is difficult, but it's possible. And technology is going to make that possible. So yes, we are proudly a microfinance bank. What has been the journey? What is it that can be the takeaway? When we started, and I think I will sort of go back to roughly 4 years ago when I became a CEO, I had pushed a lot of agenda prior to that as a CFO, head of strategy, as interim CEO, one of the banks we acquired. And what I pushed for was that I see the Nigerian situation as a pipeline, and all the banks are at the bottom of the hill with their pockets, fighting for whatever is coming from the pipeline. But the pipeline is blocked somewhere up, and nobody is willing to step up to go and unblock the pipeline. So whatever little is dripping, we are fighting ourselves and killing it. Whereas if you could actually unblock the pipeline, there will be so much that everybody will have enough. So our principle became, where are the blockages in the pipeline? The rule number one, the first thing we realized was that Nigeria had one of the lowest savings to GDP ratio, even in Africa. Which means that when somebody starts and says, I want to start a business, the likelihood that the person has any kind of equity skin in the game is always very low. Because there is no parental wealth to pass on. They don't have wealth that they have accrued in real estate by virtue of mortgages. There is no savings. And so when somebody says, I want to take a bank loan, they want leverage. But how can you leverage on nothing? Right? You need to have some equity to leverage. So I brought that up because it led us to starting a non-interest bank. Because we realized that for people who have great ideas, great entrepreneurs, who cannot get started because they don't have startup equity, you need a risk-sharing platform with them. And we have seen an amazing amount of uptake in that. Because they are good people who simply don't have the first $1 million to start a business. But we then decided, and this could actually be very useful for microfinance, that we're not going to do 50 sectors or 30 sectors. We're going to find 5 things where we feel that the market has huge potential because there's a supply-demand gap. What we meant by that was that there are sectors where the local demand far exceeds the supply, and we're essentially importing. So food was one of them. As you all know, we're importing a huge amount of rice and wheat and a lot of finished food. But the 5 sectors we chose was what we call the heart of study. It was healthcare, and what we realized about healthcare is that at the urban end of it, there was medical tourism. But at the lower end, something equally dangerous was people relying on quacks and people that have no medical profession to help them because they couldn't even afford. So it was one product where whether you go to the premium end or you go to the mass market, there was a clear gap of access to healthcare. Same thing with education. We saw it either children out of school on the lowest end or people shipping their children abroad for education on the higher end. Then you move from healthcare, healthcare, education. Then of course agriculture is very obvious. When you walk into the average mall today on the store, 50% or 80% of the items that are being sold were packaged and prepared from abroad. simply drop on it. So that's the top end of it. Go to the lowest end of it in agriculture, and of course you see what was happening with the farmers who had access, who don't have access to even the most basic implements, and they're using the same implement from 100 years ago. So it was a question of what are these sectors? Then of course renewable energy, where everybody knows that we've got a power deficit. What people don't tell you is that the time frame for the most efficient government to move our power into the marketplace is about 10 years, because there are some significant issues of law that need to be dealt with, and issues of regulation that need to be dealt with. Then there is a significant process of financing that needs to happen. Then of course there is a major issue of actually building those infrastructure, right? And then finally allowing the marketplace to become functional. Even the most competent government will not deliver it in 10 years. So the only answer you have is to go to the centralized model. So we chose renewable energy. Because renewable energy we can continue, especially as it becomes more competitive, to deploy in a phased manner. One of the things that I really look up to this year is that our 17-story head office on Marina is going upgrade. Completely going upgrade. While running a tier 3 data center with about 1,000 people in the building. The project is maybe 60-70% done by April, May, we're out of sight. And we did that because there's a need to improve our concept. A lot of people do not believe that your power need for a major commercial asset like that can be met without relying on diesel or gas generator. And finally, of course, we have transport. So the heart of spending is healthcare, education, agriculture, renewable energy, and transport. And those areas we do 3 things. First, we do partnership. Secondly, we do tech. And finally, we do financing. So between partnership, tech, and financing, we are solving problems in those 3 sectors. And the size of the market is now beginning to grow. We are seeing progress now. And of course, over the last couple of years, we've become fairly competent. And by that I mean not just the financing side of it, but the business itself of the hard sector. So what have I learned? You cannot be everything to everyone, but you can become a very critical part of the sector. So we now lead advocacy in those sectors. Of course, we lead the organization of the sectors into ecosystems so that they can work together and drive, and of course we need financing and partnership. So given that there's not enough time, I will stop here, but I just want to reassure everyone here that banking is about trust. Trust is about intimacy. Intimacy is only going to come from having the most personalized relationship. And it's only in places where you are embedded, when you are part of the community. That's the places where you get the opportunity for intimacy. And so if there's anyone that is positioned today to formalize the informal sector, it is the microfinance market. And I'm leaving here today with a commitment. Tomorrow I'm launching a product. It's called OmniX, not a public, waiting for the last leg of approval. What it does is I'm creating a marketplace for all the non-bank financial institutions to be able to have access to a treasury place that is as efficient and as competitive as what they would get if they were trading directly in the market. Because we realize that increasingly from microfinance banks to insurances to fintech, these are people that control quite a significant amount of liquidity, but they're still relying on the old rail or calling their RM to be able to make an investment. Whereas when people give them a chance to spot without thinking, they go on the same platform, they make their investment and it closes immediately. So hopefully that will be one way to help optimize business. The second thing is I will I'll find out why 60% of the people in this room are Nigerians, and we'll fix it. There must be a reason. But finally, I was talking to my team here, that what can we do for this industry? Let's forget about the speech making. In allotted time I will talk, but what can we do differently? And what we want to put on the table, we looked at the microfinance banks and say some of them, what do they need? Some do not have the capacity to make the kind of technology investment that will give them a competitive advantage, but that will make them actually compete. How can we bring this technology to them at the lowest possible cost? So that's the first thing we're going to do. The second thing we're going to do is that some of them are not in a position to raise capital so that we can continue their scaling. What we want to do is to put together a consortium that will be able to put capital behind microfinance banks that are operating at the second level, so that when they need to scale to move from unit to state, because it's the only way. It's the only way. Once we do that, two things will happen. First of all, those who are serious will raise their governance to the standard where the fund that we hope to launch can invest in them. Secondly, they will raise their profile where people who are looking to have impact in different communities and then begin to partner with them to have those impact. And finally, because we have got a very larger balance sheet, it means that the gap right now the sector suffers from the fact that it does not generate as much deposit as the amount of demand for assets. And it does not have access to the capital market to plug that gap. We will be able to come in to begin to plug that gap so that they can then solve problems in our various communities. Thank you very much.
Mr. Abu, you have done justice to it, sharp. Thank you. Maybe one of such ways to get the balance, the remaining 60%, is a conversation with the CEO of Sterling, maybe by WhatsApp or by breakfast meeting. Then you hear from us our reservations, areas of our needs directly, so that we don't go through the long journey of passing the message across. I'm sure that strategy will bring a lot of positive results. Thank you. I don't want my license to be threatened, and I wouldn't want my membership of NAMBLAG to be deterred. While Dr. Teriba was doing justice to setting the pace, the national president actually came in. There can only be one president and presidents. Today is a special day. Why? It is a special day. For years, I only know what kind of event we have that will bring members of this table together at one event that will physically attend this kind of event. Let's give them a round of applause. We wouldn't know it. It's a special event for all of them to be here in person. So we are privileged to have you. Alhaji Iliasu Ahmed Yusuf, welcome, sir. National President of the Microfinance Association. We are happy to have you. Thanks for coming all the way from Abuja. Thank you. And of course, we belong to the South, so to say. The first Vice President, who is actually monitoring advocacy, reshaping the sector, passing knowledge across, conducting training, and what have you. When it comes to anything technical, is always in charge. Mr. Joshua Kute, welcome, sir. The first Vice President of NAMBLAG. We have just one announcement. There is a black Corolla KRD 566BZ. I think it's covering another vehicle. I don't know what problem is. I'm not sure 99% of us here will know our car number. That's what it's a black Corolla. So that's an identification back because I don't know mine. Or can we do a quiz? Who knows this car? I'm so sure with it. It's a challenging thing. So it's a black Corolla. Should it be mine? Is it black, glossy, or black? What kind of black? That's the only thing. What's the number? No way. Want to begin the discussion using the base set by Dr. Teriba. And then we have the best brains in the sector. I don't mean microfinance sector. The banking sector in this room. The banking sector. And we're privileged to have them here discuss revamping the economy vis-a-vis the sector, touching on a number of areas that Dr. River mentioned, the challenges, the opportunities, yet to be tapped, yes, opportunities, and the rest of the regulatory and the market dissection. Want to discuss it. It is my privilege to start from the number one banker in West Africa. Even when the best banker is there, I will still say it. You know, he's the number one banker. Dr. Bayo Rubini. Please welcome to me. We've tried to put names, so to say, on each of the seats. Dr. Bayo Rubini is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of First Registrar and Investor Services Limited, a position he has held for 22 years since January 2000. You know, when you talk about the registrar, what comes to mind is what? First registrar. Thank you for making that happen. How? He has extensive experience spanning close to 40 years in the areas of investment banking, at least I can confirm that, portfolio management, share data management, pension fund administration and management, securities clearing and depository, stockbroking, mutual fund administration, and treasury management. He is a turnaround specialist who took over the registrar department of First Bank and transformed it from loss-making entity to a multi-billion naira venture, and has led several initiatives that positively impacted the share registration industry, in particular, and the Nigerian capital market in general. I remember in those days when we come for subsidiary CEO meeting at First Bank, you will be envying when they come to speak. He comes last. You know, he has all the money. He makes all the profit that no one can actually declare at the group subsidiary meeting. Good job, sir. Bayo has served and is still serving on several committees of Central Bank of Nigeria, Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and still serving on the board of trustees of many non-government organizations, such as, of course, RCCG, National CSR NGO, Youth Rescue and Care Initiatives, Hope Renaissance, Olufunke Olubemi Center Foundation, Cancer Foundation, that's expected anyway, Bio-Olubemi Education Foundation, of course, African Mission Global of RCCG, and many more. He's a friend of many professional bodies such as the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, Certified Institute of Pension of Nigeria, Institute of Capital Market Registrar, National Institute of Marketing of Nigeria, Institute of Directors, the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Nigerian Institute of Training and Development, and the Association of Enterprises Risk Management Professionals. Please join me in welcome Dr. Olubemi, President of Chartered Institute of Bankers, to the program. Number one, Microfinance banker. Alani, it is my privilege to also invite you to this side of the hall, Malam Yusuf Ahmed Bialisu, the President, National Association of Microfinance Bank. Yusuf is a professional accountant, seasoned banker, and an administrator with over 35 years working experience in the banking and private sectors. He worked in the commercial, merchant, mortgage, and the microfinance banking sectors, and also in the development sector. Yusuf is a fellow of the Association of National Accountants of Nigeria, ANA, certified microfinance banker, associate of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, fellow of the Chartered Institute of Loan and Risk Management of Nigeria, alumni, Boulder Institute of Microfinance, Turin, Italy, and Frankfurt School of is a registered professional accountant with the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, a certified trainer, and happily married, and enjoys traveling, playing tennis, golf, and swimming. Is presently our president. President, welcome, sir. Our chief host is out. So I will keep introducing him until maybe it's about to come in. And that's our chairman, NAMBLAG. Mr. Abubakar Sadamo, please. Thank you, students. It's only called Abu. When you hear an average sterling banker, they mention Abu. So, Abu is an economist and a banker with over 20 years experience in consulting and financial services. As the Chief Executive Officer of Sterling Bank PLC, his top priority is to optimize the impact of financial intermediation in critical sector that can crystallize growth and create a future of shared prosperity for all Nigerians. These sectors are health, education, agriculture, renewable energy, and transportation. And you remember he emphasized those sectors during his sharing his perspective. Before his current role, he served on several committees of CBN, SEC, and the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and still serving on the board of trustees of many NGOs. Oh, sorry, pardon me, please. Forgive me for that. Abu holds a Bachelor degree in Economics from the University of Abuja and a Master of Science in Major Program Management from Said Business School, University of Oxford. His previous work experience includes tax advisory at Otto Anderson and financial market in Citibank, Nigeria. He's a firm believer in the role of efficient markets, emerging technologies, and small businesses in unlocking productivity, improving national competitiveness, and driving inclusive economic growth. He currently serves on the Governing Council of CIBN and the Advisory Board of LBS and the Bantu Local Foundation. Welcome, sir. Dr. Teriba, I want to have you here because of analyzing topic. I am the CEO of Economic Associates, where he provides strategic direction for ongoing research and consulting on the outlook of Nigerian economy, focusing on global, continental, national, subnational, and sectoral issues. It teaches economics of globalization on the postgraduate Nigerian Scholars Program, NSP, at the Nigerian University of Technology and Management in Lagos. He is the coordinator of the Technical Working Group of Financial Sector and Capital Market on National Development Bank. That's the MTP 2021-2025, 2026-2030, and 2030, and Nigeria Agenda 2050. He is the Vice Chairman of the Technical Committee of the National Council of Privatization, aligning privatization programs with the macro economy. He was a member of the Board of Economic Advisors in the Office of the Economic Advisor to the Vice President, contributing to the conception of economic policy ideas for the country. He was a member of Nigerian Industrial Council, shaping efforts to ensure Nigerian industrial advancement. I was a member of Presidential Technical Advisory Committee on the implementation of new national minimum wage. He was a member of the defunct National Economic Intelligence Committee, where he conducted periodic reality checks on microeconomic, physical, and monetary policies. Before becoming CEO of EA in 2004, I was chief economist at this day newspaper, that is 2001-2004, faculty member of LBS, 1995-2001, and head of research at Lagos Chamber of Commerce, 1993-1995, and company economist at UAC of Nigeria, 1992. Dr. Reba, you're welcome to my program. Our chief host, MD of MDs, Mr. Yoda, you're welcome to the program. Taiwo is an accomplished business leader with extensive experience in leading teams, strategy formulation, banking and managing digital transformation programs to achieve financial inclusion objectives. He is also certified by the John Maxwell team as a people trainer, coach, mentor, and speaker. Currently, he is the managing director, CEO of Axiom Microfinance Bank. He holds a BSc degree in finance and banking from the University of Lagos and a master's degree in finance and banking from the same university. He is alumnus of Said Business School, Oxford University. With his extensive expertise in strategic planning and stakeholder management, Mr. Yoda has been able to steer organizations and teams into performance and prominence. Mr. Yoda has over 27 years experience in financial and non-financial institutions spread over several organizations, including Nigerian finance and investment, Kenneth Michael and Company, Financial Advisory, FSB International Bank, Equatorial Trust Bank, Fidelity Bank, and currently Axiom Microfinance Bank. Taiwo is an inspirational leader. Is respected as a credible voice in driving advocacy, capacity, a win-win mentor approach, and strategic partnership in microfinance and digital finance ecosystem. Mr. Yoda is a member, Institute of Directors, Fellow, Nigerian Institute of Management, Fellow, Board of African Fellowship and Financial Inclusion, Fellow, Business Process Management Institute of Nigeria, Honorary Senior Member of the Institute of Bankers, and Microfinance Certified Practitioner, MCB. He currently serves as a member of several committees, including the Steering Committee, National Microfinance Platform, National Association of Microfinance Bank, Advocacy Group, and next the Advocacy Board of Microfinance Lending and Development Center. Taiwo is a member, Government Council, FinTech Association of Nigeria, and the NASBA Working Group of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. He is currently the chairman, NAMBLAG, and Achifo. I think the approach we intend to adopt is to pick some salient points from Dr. Teriba's presentation so that we can dig it further. I'll be moderating the program, sir. Dr. Teriba mentioned some trends to watch during this presentation this year and beyond. What So if maybe doctor can start while we want to make it very, very interactive. So Dr. Oliver, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, before I start, let me say that I'm struggling very hard not to freeze. And I was thinking the color was the thing, but if you look at that glass, you look at it, yes, you look at maybe it's cold beyond the optimum. So if we can make it a bit warmer at least. Right, yes. Thank you very much. The tries to watch, we try to keep things to the baseline because there are a lot of things when you're at the economy or when you're looking at any aspect of it. But the trend is the news. And the volatility around the trend is the noise. So you can be carried away by monthly inflation announcements or by quarterly GDP announcements. The conversation in some circles is just that deep, the latest development. And some will even call you and tell you to start speculating on what the next inflation reading will be, or what the next GDP reading will be, or what the MPC is going to be saying at the next. And I say I'm not trained to speculate. I'm trained to analyze facts. And if you allow yourself to be tossed to and fro by monthly inflationary announcement, quarterly GDP announcement, you never see the trend. You'll be motivated by the noise rather than the news. So the trend is, and trends that have summed up on global, national, sector, have two sides to them. I know that there are people maybe bad news, tend to get more headlines than good news. But there are two categories, of the trends. There are trends that you should embrace. In other words, there are opportunities that some strength presenting that you should seek to embrace. And there are some trends that you should let go of. That it is futile. It's too late in the day now to be trying to export more or gain more from export. China joined the export bandwagon when the game was still on. They joined the WTO late, later than most, but eventually emerged as the #1 exporter in the world. Okay, now the Nigerian is the DG of the World Trade Organization. I'm afraid the train has left that station. The Nigerian is the Secretary General of PIC. PIC is trying to PIC is probably having his death dance. He's taking his final steps, staggering. There's a future, for such. And no country at the moment could base the fortunes of its country on exports. There are extreme reactions like Trump or Brexit. What's the point? Not even China can tell you that the kind of margins he was making from exports in those days that he can make it now. And the tension between the US and China and the trade wars, tells you. But parallel, not too for global investment, there are no battles, there are no tensions. It offers you a big opportunity. You can grow as big as you want, you can pick your niche. So you're in a world where your startups are likely to fetch more investments from abroad than those traditional companies that were producing to export. Venture capitalists are here looking for businesses of the future, looking for opportunities of the future. Please look at positive trends. So the negative trends, let's also keep in mind that many of the trends are positive and we should be embracing them. I'd like to respond to some of the main comment made by whether those who should hear may not be in this room. Let me just do that quickly. Yes. But I said the tone. Those who should hear are in this room. Because as either the Association of Microfinance or Chartered Institute or as members of the Nigerian elite, we have a voice. And it's really not only about the relevance of the outlook for our individual decisions or our businesses. It's also that we need some elite consensus on what's right for the outlook. The outlook is what you make of it. You can't stand at one point and expect an improved future. So the intention in analyzing the trends remains the same for people in government and for people in business. And the trends for bringing on trends and getting into the outlook is that we can also exercise our voice when necessary. That's Association of Microfinance or CIA, or as individual elite. The media corner us every episode. They was just base, so that's the reason they may not be here. But the reason why you say things in the presence of the type of a deaf person, so that if not of to relate it to the thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir, for setting that tone. Let's hear it from the CIB point of view. Dr. Rubegi, what's your perspective?
Thank you very much, Dr. Zariba. It's always a pleasure being under your, like I would say, lectureship. You have said such a very, very highly technical paper this morning, and I tend to agree with Abu a little bit that those that are supposed to hear are not here. But you have said that you are sending the children of the deaf to their fathers and their mothers so that they will relate to them in very simple language. But talking about the role of microfinance banking, I believe what you have said is much more than you dwell so much on the economy based on Nigeria and what we have done wrong in the past. And you also said that the train has left the station. I don't agree. I agree, yes, a little bit, but not necessarily totally, because like the other says, there's no time you sew a cloth that you have everybody to cover it. Yes, we have not done very well in terms of the development of our economy, and all of us However, we should look deeper at what the role of microfinance financing is in Nigeria, and also maybe interrogate the fact that whether we're actually playing that role the way we should play, or the way it's played in other jurisdictions, and whether I'm happy NDIC is here. I'm not happy CBN is not here. Whether the regulators are actually doing the right thing. And I'll tell you why. A little bit, I have some relationship with microfinance banking over the years. And I can tell you that over the years, our policies on microfinance bank has been a kind of one jacket fits all. It's like you are treating microfinance banks the way you should be treating, the way you are treating the conventional banks. By asking a microfinance bank institution to have all sorts of departments, IT, OD, at the end of the day, at the beginning, microfinance bank has 20 million as their share capital is increased now. How much now? No, for at least their tier. It's 200, I think that's 50. Even with 50 million naira, and you want me to have also departments, do you think of costs of running these businesses? That is why many microfinance banks today are in coma. Many are dead because they are overloaded with costs. That's one. Number two is also you are not giving them the kind of support that you should be giving them. I thought normally in other jurisdictions there are some funds that ordinarily should be made available to these institutions to work with or to use to reach out to the lower rung of the economy, the SMEs, the traders, and whatever. But they're not there. So if at the end of the day, for me to even as a microfinance bank, for you to have enough savings base to lend money out, you have to get those savings. You have to get them at higher cost than even what commercial banks will get. And already you are working to getting a very, very good result, because if my cost of fund is 25%, for example, because I rather keep my money in a safer place, less riskier place at lower interest rate, than give you to the market. But if I want to take that risk and give you at 25%, of course, at the end of the day, you may lend it out at 48%. And we want to encourage the lower rung of the economy to get funding, to get credit. How would they get it? If from day one, a microfinance bank are approached to fund me for just about 50,000 naira in my business, it's already asking me to pay 5%, 4% per month. What kind of risk will I do to be able to cover my costs and still have good returns at 60% per annum? I think our regulators, CBN in particular, and their twin brother, twin sister, NDIC, should do better than what we're doing now. And unfortunately, I'm not a son of the devil man. I don't know who to send the message to. Honestly, we need to tell ourselves we are all stakeholders in this business. I thank God for people like Abu, but I don't know if the microfinance bank I have the connection with goes to Abu if be able to give me fund that the CBN rate when they give to SMEs now, or to the health sector, 9%, 10%. But I know he may not be able to, because his own cost of fund is not as cheap as 9%. So what do we do? I think the government, from the Ministry of Finance to CBN and all of us, if we really and genuinely have interest in growing microfinance banking in Nigeria, we need to relook our policy and rework it to suit the purpose for which we have put this microfinance banking or microfinancing into place. The countries have promoted microfinance bank in the first place, where they came from, India and the rest. They don't do what we're doing here. They don't kill with interest rates. And of course, apart from the interest rates, we also have high cost of doing business in Nigeria. From even the point of registering your business fees and the rest. The issue of power, the issue of energy, power, transportation, everything is loaded. Every day, microfinance bank is actually not what operating in Nigeria if we continue this way. I'm afraid, yes, I know today we have gone IT. Thank God for it, and a lot of fintech are actually coming into your space. So if you as traditional microfinance bankers or operators are not ready to up your game, you should begin to prepare your funerals. And I thank God, Abbas also said that you be willing to work with us to not just giving you financing, but also to build platforms, IT platforms for you to be able to operate at lower cost. I think there's a need to do a lot of reworking, both from the regulator and the regulator's side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President. Especially for addressing the constraints that we have. How can we now play that pivotal role in revamping the economy despite these constraints? My President, Madam Iliasu, can we have your comment on this?
Thank you very much, and good morning all. First of all, let me start by thanking and appreciating the organizers for this very important event. For the few minutes I've been here, having the opportunity to sitting alongside these financial moguls, I've learned a lot. And I'm quite surprised that the president of the Southern Institute of Bankers is talking like microfinance practitioner. So I'm happy he's taking that senior brother role that we expect of him. Thank you very much, sir, for yes, you see, there is no way any growing economy will develop without special attention to the MSMEs. And the micro, small and medium enterprises is a space where we play. That is where we get our daily bread. And if special attention is not given to this sector, to that space, believe you me, whatever you're talking about economic development, you're just fooling yourself. Doctor who has presented his papers have given us the global trends and how things are happening. And right here in the house, we know that the microfinance banks are the channels that should and that must be used to really take care of these SMEs who now are the engine of economic growth and development in Nigeria. But are we receiving that attention? Is that sector receiving the desired and deserved attention? The answer is no, and we all know it. Mr. President of Nigerian mentioned the high cost of our interest rates. Now, if we go back into history and look at when the microfinance itself started, that's somewhere 2005, you know, at that point, because all the other poverty alleviation interventions of the different governments we have, named them FAID, rural banking, community banking, and so many other, interventions. They were all government interventions to alleviate this sector we are talking about. Because everyone knows, any government to be serious, they must give special attention to this space. Now, in 2005, when the microfinance policy was introduced, there was a statement in the policy that there shall be established a microfinance development fund so as to entice investors that are now crossing over to the microfinance sector. Now, because if at that time, when you come in with your mega minimum share capital to float a microfinance bank, just for the reasons that President CIBM mentioned, before you know it, the whole capital is gone. And these are requirements, regulatory requirements. Central Bank will tell you, you must have XYZ department to be manned by XYZ cadre of staff. That is cost to you. So you, at the end of the day, you are left with very little to do the real banking. And that development fund, microfinance development fund, that they promised to be there is to be accessed by these banks so that it will implement their working capital so that they can really, truly do their microfinance banking. This is over 16 years now. That development fund has not seen the light of the day. So you can see that we are left with the little minimum share capital that we'll be able to gather to put in the business and to do. And you know, the major problem we have in this sector is high cost of operations and then the bank loans. These are the things that directly erode whatever capital you have. So you are left at the mercy of trying to mobilize these small pockets of deposits that you will use now in turn to give out as loans. That is what explains the very high interest rates of the microfinance banks. We have seen in developed clients where SMEs are naturally subsidized, and this subsidy is coming and pushed through the microfinance institutions. These things are not here now. To worsen the situation, instead of coming to bail us out, we know bailout funds are given to the big banks because, and at one point we asked, we are equally licensed, duly licensed microfinance banks that are there to serve and fill a gap. If our banks are dying on a daily basis, nobody cares. But once one big bank is shaking, before you know it, billions and billions of naira will be pumped there. These billions and billions of naira is our common wealth. It's for the nation. So that's attention, that support, that subsidy. We know that it's no more free loans. Whatever you are giving must be at a rate that will be passed on to our customers, that will utilize, make production, sell, pay us our interest, and then our principal. And at the same time, that capital is still safe. That fund is safe for the government. But are we getting all this? We are not. For instance, for God's sake, how can minimum share capital be increased by 1,000%? 1,000%. Definitely, out of the almost 900 banks that we have, we know by the end of this April, because that's the final threshold deadline for us, by that end, more than half of the banks will go down. There will be complete chaos in the financial system. There will be so much problem extended to NDIC, who at that point will be undertakers. They will have so much problem paying the deposits of these banks that are dying unnaturally, not natural death. Because our fear and belief is that they are being strangled out. We know it is always good to have a buffer, to have good capital base, because that will enable you expand and do more business. But we believe in any society, organic growth is the best way to grow a business, not by fear. And this is what is happening to us now. So we are saying, if truly we want the development of the economy, this space where we play, special attention must be given. And I know we are in touch with the powers that be. Will they listen to us? That's a different thing. We are doing our own part, we are doing the talking. We believe that it's no challenge, there's no problem that advocacy cannot solve. So we are doing the advocacy, and we are begging anybody that has wherewithal to carry our message, just like Dr. that presented him has said. Those that should be here are not here. All the beautiful ideas he has given, believe you me, if they will just give it 2-3 hours to rather analyze it, believe you me, the solution to what we are going through will be there. But the people are not here. So we are making, yes, we need increase in share capital, but by 1,000%, I think is a clear, direct attempt to eliminate and to reduce our numbers. We feel CNEN itself, because they are in charge of the financial system, once there is chaos in that system, it will directly rub off of them. That is one. Two, their sister agency, that is the NDIC, will have its hand full, because at that point, as an undertaker of over 600 banks that will die on natural death, I don't know how they are going to handle that. And then two, even those banks that will survive, there are about 400 banks that will survive, the death of their sisters, brothers, will rub up on them directly because they will be run on them. And then don't forget, every microfinance bank has a corresponding banking relationship with a commercial bank. The commercial banks also will be affected directly. So I don't know when a policy is given and the stakeholders are not engaged, at least come us to the table. We want to do this, this is what we want to achieve. We as practitioners, we that are in the field, will be able to say these are the best ways we can achieve this. So that it's a win-win position. But policies come by fear, not minding the rippling effects that it will have on the generality of the economy. I think there should be a rethink to that. It is not too late for us to get that change so that at least the system will be stabilized, and I believe that is the main purpose of the central bank of any nation, to stabilize the financial system. So this is the little I think I can do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that analysis. Should we now, based on what Malaki just presented, should we now be panicking? Doctor presented some sectorial trends, the focus for this year, the opportunities. How can we still play along this? What should we be looking at? How should we do it better? Maybe an operator, one of us should actually dissect it. Mr. Jordan, please, can we have your comments on these issues?
Thank you very much. Thanks for all the comments. I think, Mr. President, you're speaking exactly the way presidents should speak. So thanks. I believe so much in advocacy, but very quickly, we live in an environment where in my house I had to do my bottled water. In my estate we contribute money for road. And so it is not a surprise if there are policies that have been abandoned for 15 years, because we live in an environment where it is DIY, do it yourself. And so there is a fundamental issue, and that is, how do we survive? In the seeming contradictions and contractions that we have found ourselves. And I will pitch on that as, I think I'm getting the microphone at a very important time, because I think the next person will be Andy and Serena. And I was going to look at a few things you have said. So how do we survive? Sterling Bank said they can help with capital raising. Sterling Bank says they can help with access to liquidity in the market. They said they can help with technology investment. And those are some of the issues we've raised here today. Technology is very expensive. And as a unique microfinance bank, as a state microfinance bank, we may not be able to do it all alone. But if you have a willing partner, then we're able to make significant strides. So while we wait for their regulators and the government to wake up to their responsibility, I don't believe 60% will die, who will survive. We have very strong will to survive. We've always survived, we will survive. I see a lot of organizations, Microfinance will celebrate 10 years of existence, 5 years of existence this year. And that speaks to the tenacity and speaks to our doggedness and determination to weather the storm. When we count our numbers, we'll still be more than 80% because we will survive. But we need partners that will make us survive. We need partners that will take us to across the Rubicon. And that's why I'm putting Sterling Bank on the spot. And so you asked the question, very valid question while you're making a presentation. And that question is, why 40%? And then you spoke about trust. You spoke about openness. You spoke about intimacy and heartbeats. And you see, that's actually where most human beings are a bit laid back in dealing with commercial banks. I'll give you a personal example. So I wanted to reduce my bankload, and we decided to go remitter. So that because the GIS, the Global Standard GSI, has not been introduced to microfinance market. So we went through remitter, and we asked a few of our customers to go and get a direct debit mandate from the commercial banks. The conversion rate was out of this world. The conversion rate. I can tell you the big corporates. Interestingly, Sterling Bank was not there. But we had FCMB, we had a couple. So once they get into the banking of, oh, you're from Accent, you want remitter, how much do they want to give you? It's 5 million naira. They give them an offer. So trust is key. So if I look at the need for me to co-locate, if I look at the need for me for a strong partnership, I also look at the challenge and the risk of losing my data, losing my customer, losing my revenue, because I am vulnerable. Because I'm vulnerable. And you need to survive. I mean, the microfinance banks need to survive for the commercial banks to survive. So the whole idea of waiting for the microfinance bank to de-risk the customer and then take them over and leaves a very bitter pill in the mouth. How do we build that trust? Not just on commercial banks, but also in the ecosystem, even with the fintechs. How do we go to the granular of helping us to raise the capital that we need to raise? We need to run immediately. One of the challenges that I've seen in our sector is data. There is no data. If you go to the Central Bank of Nigeria today and want indices of how microfinance banks are doing, they can give an aggregate that you will not be pleased with. There's no data. Go to Augusto and go to all the rating agencies. They don't have data around microfinance. How can we build data that are credible, that will help us to determine how well we're doing, how well we're faring? And then, of course, technology. So I come to Sterling Bank. One of the issues of challenge I have is that Sterling Bank is a correspondent bank to AB or ABC Microfinance Bank. And so any customer of ABC Microfinance Bank comes to deposit money into ABC Microfinance Bank account with Sterling Bank. And that gives me a reconciliation problem. Because I then have to take the statements, at times the narrations are not there. So but technology has moved. So there's a big question. How can a customer of ABC Microfinance Bank move into a Sterling Bank, pay whatever it needs to pay, and it will reflect as a single identity in the account of ABC Microfinance Bank, as Taiwo paying it, not as ABC receiving the credit. So those are some of the things I really would like an answer to, because I think it will sweep the industry if we can have answers to it. So it doesn't look like, okay, it's nice to hear that Sterling Bank and probably a few others can help us with capital raising. how are we going to do that? We have challenge of data. It's nice to hear how we can have access to liquidity. How do you partner with us? I still don't think that commercial banks are designed and wired in such a way to go to the last mile. You cannot build a 200 million naira branch and then want to be doing cover business. You need to partner with us. Finally, I would want to see how you want to personalize. I love the idea of you focusing on one customer. But when you deal with the mass market, how do we achieve that? So an average microfinance bank can give 300 loans. Some give up to 3,000 loans in a month. Some give 500 loans in a month. If you don't go through the product approach and you want to deal with every customer as an individual, it will be so overwhelming. How do you intend to do that? How has technology helped you? So I'm sorry, it's more of a question than a response, but it's just what's on my mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tyler, for bringing up these points. I know you are well prepared. We can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you very much. Let me start by telling my lecturer that some deaf men don't have children. So they realize the problem. And when somebody doesn't treat you like that, yeah, even if they claim to be your father, you won't go back with the message. So I think there's a problem there. I'm trying to be organized in my thoughts because Mr. Jordan has actually opened up a huge number of issues I want to talk to. My first reaction is to Dr. Deriva that, look, there is still one game left to play in sports. And it is the game of exporting intellectual capabilities. It has opened up. I mean, it's just starting, it's early days. I will share an example just to emphasize. I know, based on the work we've done, that if you have 10 million engineers, software engineers today, covering all the different specs of it today, they will all be employed globally. Before, it was a problem because that means 10 million immigrants. And they are not ready to see 10 million black people descend on their cities. But thank God for technology and for what has happened with COVID. It means that 10 million of them, maybe 9.5, can sit down here and be employed without leaving their homes. We then go back to that is the demand side of it. And this job on the average will pay easily $1,000 a month, easily. And we can produce those 10 million because I know that there are more than 10 million young people today that are capable of acquiring these things and becoming useful. Now we go to the other side of it. I started experimenting a couple of years ago when I put out the first funding, about 100 million, I gave out 80 million of it to train 40 people in software engineering. It cost 2 million per person. It was a 6 months training. Within 30 days of finishing, all of them were employed. Every single one of them were employed. So our opportunity is right before our eyes. Right? There is something that we have in abundance. Those 200 million children, many of them that are teenagers today, give them 1 year of intensive training and they will start to contribute so much to the economy. So that's just by the way. I think the biggest opportunity and the biggest challenge for the microfinance banking sector today is that they have not yet figured out self-regulation. I can tell you for free that the central bank and the NDIC will not give you the amount of time and resources that you need for your sector to get to where you want. But you can help them by activating self-regulation on a scale so that eventually it will be easy for them to customize regulation for you. I used to be a treasurer. One of the things we did was we set up Money Market Association of Nigeria and started to self-regulate. It is a work that happened in Money Market of Nigeria that led to the creation of FFDQ today. So you create your regulation, you take it to the regulator, they see that it is working, they will adopt it, and then they can customize it. I also think that this industry is suffering, some of the sins that we suffered in the core banking area, where you line up on one single street 10 banks, which have been running 10 different processing centers. Makes no sense. Same reason when the telcos came and you go to one location and all 4 telcos have their masts. Just like putting money in the hole makes no sense. This industry has an opportunity to turn that around. Rather than every one of us going to buy expensive foreign softwares and platforms, we could actually be the chance to co-create something that will be co-owned by the industry. The way we created needs today that has become an industry asset that has saved us billions. And offering that we're willing to sit with the industry to figure out how to co-create so that all of the units entities that are coming in today and the state level that are not ready to spend any money on buying any software can operate on this software. And it has the added advantage of being an opportunity to solve the problem you just highlighted of a customer walking to a commercial bank and creating a nightmare for you, especially as you become as big as you are. So you solve that problem as part of the core software. I'm willing to participate in that process. I also think that the critical value that microfinance can play is that they can become the on-ramping and off-ramping of formalizing the informal sector. In other words, they are the best position to enable the informal sector start to benefit from formalization, even before they start to take on the cost of becoming formal. Because you interact with them at a level where you actually can effectively consult for them. Many of us interact from a distance, so you want money, we'll give you money and we'll go home. But microfinance banks are embedded in their communities, and so they're able to say, this is what can really make a difference. And I'll give an example of how outsiders are doing this. I took a meeting with a company yesterday. A young man reached out to me when he started about 3 years ago, but I was too busy to give him time. But this time around when he reached out to me, I had no choice. I had gone to his house. And I tell you what he did. He realized that the last mile, the market women, whenever they need to stock up today, they have to leave their store, go to another major producer, take time and all of that. So he designed a system where the market women at the last mile can buy the FMCG goods that they need without stepping. And he was delivering to them within 3 to 4 hours, whereas before it had taken them days to stock up. And today, he's doing 4,000 deliveries a day in less than 3 years of starting this business. When he then dropped the software for them on a smartphone in February or a couple of months ago, I think it was in November that it was, he said to me that last Monday, 50% of the women placed their order online. And all of us think that those women, they are not smart enough to use smartphones. Right, so what am I saying? He paid a lot of attention to those specific ecosystems and built the answer for them. And now he's raising, I think he raised $40 million in the last capital raise. This is young man, he's so young. When he came to my office, all the people he had hired are all like his father's age. The CFO, the chief marketing officer, all older than him. But he just paid attention to a problem. And I think microfinance can do that. They can pay attention, figure out the problem, and maybe find partners to solve it, even if they can't solve it themselves. So I think helping to formalize that informal sector, because what the person has done is given an average, is that the average trader in the marketplace now has inventory management, has online marketplace where they can purchase, and now I'm offering to put credit on that so that they can also buy on credit and grow. That is, I think, one thing that the sector can do. I also think that the sector can govern better. I don't think I need to say much about this. You can almost correlate the size of the dominant players in the sector with the governance that they have implemented. So I think it's self-evident. I think the sector can scale through partnership. I hear you. It is not untrue that what you describe is happening. But the way I would like to approach it is, I don't want to come to you with a transaction where I'm doing something for you and you're paying me and that's it. I want to be able to come to a microfinance bank and say, why don't we enter a long-term partnership? So that it doesn't benefit me to acquire a customer. How might that work? Those who are well governed have a good team today. We might be able to create, borrowing from the president's the missing development fund. Maybe we can have a microfinance investment fund that says, let us get people who are interested in seeing the sector do well, put money in this fund. We will put money, but we won't necessarily be the major. And then use that money to invest in those that have met the governance standard. Once we are investor in you, there is no ground, no room for us to then steal customers from you. It just doesn't make sense anymore. And we can contract to make sure that they can't even happen. That's one way to look at it. Come in as an equity partner. The other way to look at it is come and sit down with you and say, what are the things that you do well and you will keep doing? What are the things that are somehow a strain for you and you can't do? A good example might be you want to lend between 0 to 2 billion. But when it crosses 2 billion, you don't think that's how you want to lend anymore. And you want a partner that will take between 2 billion to 2 billion. And then we do it. We build the platform in such a way that I'm not lending to those that are 2 billion below. Right? You build a long-term partnership. You build it not just into contract, but into platform so that everybody is motivated to stay disciplined. So I think that some of us are definitely willing to do the hard work of creating the trust. I definitely think that the concept of wallet as a service that we have done for quite a few of the fintech might actually work very well for the microfinance bank, where your customers will actually have banking accounts that are, you can go into any bank and you're paying into that banking account, right? And therefore, internally, what you will see is that they will actually receive credit within your own app into their account, and you will see the second leg of it in your collection account. A couple of fintechs have used that successfully. It has eliminated their reconciliation nightmare. But that's just one idea. You can sit down with us and think of the problem together. So let me not take more time. I just want to reassure you that I don't want to leave here with nice speeches delivered. I want to be clear to my mind how to move this forward. The last comment is when we built the OmniX platform, one of the things we did was to enable you use all your assets to be able to access instant credit. So if you've got treasury bill portfolios, you've got all of that, we make it possible for you to be able to access instant credit, and once you pay it out, you can move again. What I'm now thinking is that there are other assets that you have that are not liquid or financial assets that will maybe be able to create an opportunity for you to use it as well to access liquidity. Not necessarily as a long-term loan, but something that is available, because sometimes it is just that gap, being able to raise money on short notice, and is even more critical to your survival than having a long-term credit line. So we are open, and I hope that we can take the conversation from here further. Thank you.
Definitely this session has been a springboard to further actions. And we're going to take you on a number of issues. The national president is here. NAMBLAG chairman is here. We want to capitalize on having approved us to discuss this cooperation, this partnership, and do more business to enable us actually meet our focus of reshaping and revamping the economy. Thank you. We want to welcome comments and questions from the audience. We'll be taking six. And of course, except that's a new job, the president emeritus will speak or ask questions. And the NDIC, if they so wish, they can also make a comment. I wouldn't know. Let's take the president emeritus. Sir, Doctor, let's have your comment, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My President and Chairman of the Council, CRBN, my brother, my everything. So we know we've been in this struggle for a long time. The doggy himself. I use that word because both of us we have our uniform coming here together today. So you can see the cap. One is facing here, the other one. Thank you. And my distinguished colleagues and friends, thank you for this opportunity given to me to just mine is comment actually, and I've listened to all the distinguished speakers, the suggestions, our problems, and what has been happening in our industry. I think my president was very passionate. Anybody that is sitting there, that's where I used to be anyway. And I want to say, for us to revamp the microfinance subsector, we are, as a NAM, we are standing on 4 strategic pillars. One, which is advocacy. President has spoken a lot about it. And for us to revamp this subsector or this sector, we need more of that advocacy, which is still on. 2, the capacity building. I don't think it's knowledge that we are lacking in our subsector. No. Because if not, the certification program organized by CIBA can stand any professional examination outside this country. And I think our people are, and NAM is doing a lot there. The issue of partnership, I was challenging one of the examiners that came from NDIC. You will look at my book and say the strength at which I'm growing my customer is not commensurate with the money I have. But you, as an NDIC or CBA, can only collect loan from me. You can't open an account and deposit with me. Where will my trust come from? Is it the policy seller that will struggle and give me money? You, as my regulator, that you will come and collect money from me, but you don't want to be banking with me. How will I get my confidence? How will people believe that's it? But we will leave all those ones. The issue of partnership, I'm so glad that Sterling Bank is coming up with something that my president and the chairman, Lagos and whole Nigeria will work with, and we will tap into it. Because from what the MD of Sterling Bank has said, they are driving at 5 products. And that 5 products is hinged on 3 things: partnership, technology, and financing. And that's exactly what we have in revamping our subsector as we speak. Because we can partner with you and we can reduce our ICT cost. Doctors say a lot about it. The problem of this country is this cost. The way we don't know how to manage our debt, the way we don't know how to improve on our revenue. It's a basic thing that is happening virtually in all the subsector. And the same thing. So I said that for us to revamp, we might be going for about 3 things. I call it PEEP. 1, policy reform. Thank God my regulators are here. The policy that set up microfinance banking 2005, if you go back to it, I think it's still applicable today if we are ready to bring out those policies and follow it. If you check the principle of microfinance, there are some things that CBN, NDIC should not do, but they are competing with us on it. By now, the sector should have a body called it that we can regulate, self-regulate ourselves. But those things are hinged on some conditions that CBN and NDIC, for example, supposed to support, which we are not getting. So there is a need for us to go back and review and reform a policy. Then institutional framework. If you look at it, one time we were coming up on things of what happened in the other client. Like my president said, is it what happened over there that is happening here? No. There was a time that I was expecting an examiner, and usually they send copies to you of what and what they need. And I was seeing the schedule of my FS remittances. And I remember that I have permissible and non-permissible transactions. And by my last count of when I was reading without glasses, I remember that I did not go into FS. And when my examiner comes, you are asking for FX. And if you argue too much, they say because you are a president, you are exposing some things. So you can see that policy somersaults sometimes also happen, and that's why there's a need for reform. And then the institution, basically, for this economy to move forward, I keep saying it anywhere I have opportunity to say it. You need to take care of your micro and small. And that constitutes about
one time about 37 million, and you know what it is. Everybody that is coming out now, my small daughter came out and said, Daddy, I don't want to work. I want to go. She's studying digital business. And what she wants to do to NYC where she's at, you need to imagine. So then people want to come out to be an entrepreneur. But is the environment and enabling environment available for them? It's not. The same thing is happening to our subsector. And so I think that the kind of risk we are facing, which need to be addressed through the policy, the institution, is like regulatory risk. It is too much. There is no way one day we will have someone who is a microfinance person to be CBN governor or MD of NAMBLAG. Then Nigerians will now see that you can make microfinance banks to solve our problem in this country. Two, the third one that I said is about process and products. Microfinance bank is sitting on 12 products. The only thing that we have permission to do is two: micro save and micro loans. What's happening to micro health? My MD of selling bank is tapping into our industry. What is happening to micro insurance? What's happening to micro franchising? My MD said that. What is happening to micro mortgages? What's happening to micro leasing? Can CBN, NDIC that is here free the space and see whether we will revamp the subsector? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. While we call on NDIC for the, should I say for the money right? Oh, that's fine. That's fair. Thank you, madam. She's a very fair person. She wants to listen to every comment, then she can now make clarifications and necessary comments. Thank you very much for that. Can we have Mr. Folami Shoman to join us, please? From Computer Warehouse. You're welcome, sir. It's actually one of our major sponsors. I will be talking about technology. Thank you. Do we have further? Let's give it to Mr. Lebanon, please. Then after Mr. Kuti. Mr. Lebanon.
Thank you very much. I have like four things I want to mention, and I'm not going to get through time. So now, the number one thing is there's something I picked from the paper by Dr. Teriba, which I think as participants we need to have like a second look at it. It was talking about how you can shift your emphasis from income statement to balance sheet. Even though we seem to have applied it strictly to the national economy, but I think there is a sense there for us as practitioners. Because what I observe is that if you see what the fintechs are doing today, that's exactly what they are doing. Yesterday or day before yesterday, there's one of them that they said the valuation, it was $3 billion. And I think that valuation is like bigger than most commercial banks in Nigeria. So what I'm saying is that we need to begin to look that way. Sometimes you may need to build your balance sheet first before you can continue to guarantee a continuous flow of income. So I think we need to look at it at our own time. The number two thing I want to say is that I think somebody like Mr. Abubakar will be able to help us, and people like Computer Warehouse Group. I think a fundamental problem we have is we are not generating savings from the public, and this thing is a mindset thing. All of us today, of course, I believe that the way Nigeria is structured, you cannot hope to fund your microfinance business largely from savings. Because even people who are collecting money from us, I have customers who can ask for 5 million, 10 million. And when they have 2 million, 1 million, 500,000 to save, they will take it to Sterling Bank or they will take it to Stanbic IBTC. Now, that wouldn't have been so unfortunate if I don't have a situation whereby even the practitioner, the staff members, if you ask them what are we doing, they will say we give loan. They don't remember that we take savings. Now, we must have a concerted effort that can solve that problem. Otherwise, we'll be changing ourselves. Now, I believe that there should be a way we can use technology to address that. For people like the MD of Sterling Bank that are ready to work with us, I want to suggest that, please, let's see how we can collaborate to be able to get that one done. If we do it, there's not going to be any need for your brothers to be stealing our customers. Now, the third thing I want to say is I think we need to also have a kind of, in terms of capital, a little creativity has to be brought in. I observe that even regulation looks at other ways we can fund our business apart from the state ordinary share equity. And more than 99% of us are not looking at other things, the bond, the commercial paper, whatever. So we should look for how we can collaborate and tap into that area also, including preference share and things like that. I think it's going to help us. Lastly, because the regulators are represented here, and I don't want to be quoted, but please permit me to say, I think the regulators today, I feel so, and I've heard it from a few people. I think the regulators today do not actually have whether something like they don't have interest in the microfinance. All of us that are sitting here, and it's one of the reasons why all the money that the regulator is giving to support this industry is going to one person that is a stooge of the regulator and the bankers committee. And I think we really have to look at it and change it. A tree does not make a forest, no matter how big and how good and how large the branches of the tree. So let's see how we can support multitude of us, and I think that will be better for the industry. Thank you.
Maybe briefly, CWD has something to tell us, after which Mr. Bute will narrate it up.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's been engaging. I've noted a few points. It's clear that we've all agreed that technology is a key driver for our businesses, especially on the beginning. What we do as CWG is to bring about technology to help the businesses, Microfinance Bank, SM. And we think forward. Abu said something, and I must say thank you for Abu. I learned under his stage, and I will say thank you. Transiting from banking to technology, I quite understand the challenges within MFBs and giving micro loans.
Mr. Taiwo said something, and that is what we've done. Even though the CBN has not introduced GSI to the microfinance bank space, what we did at CWG to solve that problem, because we looked at the problem and said, how can we solve the problem of retail loans where there are no documentations, there are no collaterals, but you know that the business opportunities are there, but there is nothing to document that for you to support your credit analysis. What we did, we have a solution for SME called SNEP. And the unfortunate thing for the MFB is that we went to a commercial bank to give a proposition of how we think that it can solve the problem of microlending. And we went to them and we said, we have an SME solution that allows you to be able to see your customers on board on the SME solution on an OPEX basis, very insignificant, so that they can have records of that trade, which really helps. We moved a step further because the bank was saying, yes, these guys will have to pay for banks like everybody has alluded to. The commercial banks, you go there, you want to get the standing instruction. The bank says, oh, let me give you the money. What we introduced on the SME platform is, there is quick loan, and I will give it to our group for starting the 5-minute loan. And what that does is that we integrated our application such that the customer also signs for you to access your other bank accounts. So what the commercial bank did was layer that on the SM. So as a microfinance bank, the customer signs for you to be able to view his global account. So you have a total picture of what is happening in the customer's account. And they were able to push forward in that space, because what it does is that you have control over your funds that you have provided to that customer. And you also take a cue from that you are sharing the risk, because when you're actually doing retail loans, micro loans, it is actually risk sharing. It is not so much about the way you have commercial banks where you have collateral that helps you. With that, their retail loan has gone up, because what the customer just needs to do is to sign the mandate, and you come to the office, you are able to see the total customers' activity banking wise. So you can actually see when that diversion is happening, because yes, from the credit standpoint, that is one of the biggest risk, diversion risk for retail guys, and that is what we've done. Beyond that, for the MFB institution itself, we are also making technology affordable, because all our suite of products are run on OPEX basis. Where for the people that can go on CAPEX, yes, they can. We have a data center where you can actually do co-location or do infrastructure as a service. So for MFBs, you don't necessarily need to acquire any servers, computers. I was talking to Mr. Taiwo earlier in the day, and he was asking me, how do I ensure that my data is safe? Our data center is certified. We provide disaster recovery for some commercial banks. Some commercial banks actually use our data center as their disaster recovery. And we also have our own partners that where you come as a customer, we provide you both with your production environment and also your disaster recovery, which is also one of the overhead costs CBN is putting both on commercial banks and microfinance banks to ensure that you are able to fade over should in case any disaster happens. We quite understand that, yes, that is best practice, but in terms of costs, it is something that the microfinance bank may not be able to afford. But for us, what we are doing is that we are providing that as a service on OPEX basis, pay on a monthly basis. You can have your entire infrastructure if you have existing infrastructure, rather than bother about a mini server room where you have to put on the ACs, your cooling, your data set, your energy cost. That can actually be done on an OPEX basis, and that is our own little contribution within the micro space. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashobade. Mr. Ashobade will not be in a hurry. He will stay back after the session. We can always exchange cards and take this up. This is a useful session. We are going to make a number of decisions that will take us to higher heights. Mr. Abuche, then NDIC, then we say thank you to our guest. Mr. Abuche, please, is the first vice president of the national board.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This session has been, is it this morning? This afternoon, good afternoon. During his presentation and his response, he already said that he would love to work with the microfinance banks with respect to equity and equity, and you were giving instances. Okay, so I will say that we have the Microfinance Development Company. Okay, that is a fund manager, a company where that is developed by the sector of the microfinance banks. Okay, that for on-lending to microfinance banks also take fund from those who are interested in funding the microfinance space, right? So probably, I want to look at that. Then the other one is a question, and sometime last year I was privileged to work with Opportunity International, that education on finance, and I was privileged to also review the end product of Sterling, about 8 or 9 products, NPA, special COVID-19, those are loans. And when I was reviewing them and during the training for the Sterling Bank staff, both online and offline, I realized something, that the passion with which the Sterling Bank staff were taking this finance to another level. So my question is this: what is the driving force? I know that the E in your heart program is education, and like what Doctor said, one of the assets is human capital, which you have also alluded to. So if you're looking at human capital as a great asset, and to develop that, we have to go through the finance way, which I know Sterling Bank is playing a great deal there. So what is the driving force? What did you see? Did you see the balance sheet, or did you see the income statement according to my brother's side? So I just want to ask that. Thank you.
What is the secret to his success? That's nice. Each and every one on the air table will give you 1 minute comments. Should we have NDIC, or we have? Yeah, let's have NDIC one. Idea Mujida, etc. Now we have you are free to come here, you are free to sit, you are free to sign. None of us can. Maybe NDIC should just come. I wouldn't mind to have you beside me. At least.
I would like to stand here. I don't want to back anybody.
We need to see you, ma.
Are you not seeing me?
We're seeing you.
In only our economies, bandwagon effect is one of those things that causes abnormal demand box. So maybe stay beside that bandwagon effect. Madam, please.
Okay, that's fine. Yes. He is.
I like that. Thank you.
MD, CEO Sterling Bank, Dr. Ayo Teriba, the father of the program. Our friend from the computer warehouse, and of course, Mr. Win. Ladies and gentlemen, my esteemed bankers, we thank you for the honor for having us in your programs, and we continue to be in your programs, except you don't invite us. Once you have your invite, we definitely be with you, because we believe we are partners, and we have to continue to be partners in progress. That does not mean we don't have challenges. My director, Mrs. Okoke, would have been here, but we are actually having another meeting with our management in Abuja, and that's why she is attending that meeting. I've listened to all the comments, and I want to say that we are all in this together. I want to see this forum as a family meeting, where we need to tell ourselves the truth. I'm not going to put blame on the operators nor on the regulators. We are all stakeholders, and we have parts to play in revamping the microfinance subsector of the industry. When it comes to regulation, the Central Bank of Nigeria is the apex bank regulator for the industry, and NDIC assisting with supervisory roles. Of course, we have the NAM, and we collaborate with NAM, and we have the Committee of Microfinance Banks in Nigeria, where we meet through the 3 zones established by NAM. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Abuja zone, the Eastern zone, usually Ogun, and then Lagos, the North, the South, and then the East. This forum was created to enhance collaboration between the operators, the regulators, and the supervisors. For every rule that comes in, and Mr. Abu Sulaiman can confirm this, because I know he must have been attending the bankers committee. For every rule that comes into operation, the CBN always send drafts to receive input from operators. We don't do it all alone. And presently we have the revised guideline, which have been circulated for your input. I expect that these are fora where we can hear out what we think should be in our subsector. For the recapitalization, because we need to talk about this as well. We want to have a strong subsector. And my people will say, Owolowo, where you don't have the capital, you don't have money to do business, then you are not going to be in business. You are not in business if you don't have the money to do business. And that's what informed the regulator, the CBN, and NDIC, that let's have tier 1, tier 2, so that the tier 2 will take care of our microfinance banks in the rural areas, while the 200 take care of those in the urban areas. And of course, we have the states with 1 billion and the national 5 billion. I could remember in one of the COVID we had, where the central bank representative told us that there could be an option of merger, but I don't want to call it disease. This tendency that I want to be in charge, I want to lay MD. People are not looking at that option, and it's the reality that we need to look into. I've not, in my several years of being in NDIC, where NDIC or CBN has recommended that or has observed that the bank's cost is low. No, we don't incur those costs. And that is part of what the CBN and NDIC are doing when we brought out the issue of NAMBLAG, because we know what it costs to have software in the bank, especially for unit tier 2 microfinance banks and even some tier 1 microfinance banks. Now let's have a uniform software for the microfinance subsector. And CBN and NDIC, they have spent quite a lot of money on that. Yet, like I am aware that some banks have been onboarded, some are keep, and these are areas we need to look into before we crucify the regulator or the supervisor. So we need you to please let us have your inputs on the revised guideline. Then NDIC, as part of our mission, is to provide financial and technical assistance to our insured institutions. When it comes to financial assistance, NDIC is not going to provide capital for any institution because it is not our business to do that. But when it comes to technical assistance, and I will say that you are not tapping and all the hands of assistance that we have given in this subsector. Recently, I was opted into a committee on capacity building, and I made the suggestion at that meeting that when it comes to technical assistance and particularly capacity building, we have the personnel, we have experienced staff, both in CBN and NDIC. Let us have rapport. Tell us where we need capacity building. And even as at that, we have other programs. We have programs for operators. And correct me if I'm wrong, we have extended some of these programs for operators. We have movable collateral program. We have financial analysis program. We have so many of these programs that we have extended to operators. But let me tell you, we have collaboration with NAM officials when we are doing all this. Even during COVID-19, we were doing Zoom meetings on differential premium assessment system so that we'll be on the same page. And we ask for your input. I would need us to please let us continue to collaborate. If you are not there, we are not there. If you have headache, you won't be able to sleep throughout the night. That is the fact of the situation. So don't think that they left us alone or we are just doing it. All they are interested is to collect premium. No. We never wished and we don't wish that any bank should fail any longer in this country. But we have to do it together. And the other truth I want to say about cost, overload of cost. Most of our operators, particularly those ones leaving the deposit money banks and getting into microfinance bank, we want to enjoy all those luxuries in quote that development banks, commercial banks. But what is the total asset of that microfinance bank before you can start acquiring this and that? Even to pay rent for microfinance banks, and then we need to go inward. Look at the management of the bank, of the microfinance subsector, the management, the board squabbles. We need to look inward as well. I'll continue to say this, that we are partners in progress. And the better we perform, the better for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elia Isiaka. She has always been a friend of the house.
Compared to commercial bank, and every person wants to take his or her deposits to commercial bank, and we are just struggling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I'll just take it from where she talked about partnership, about the fact that we are all stakeholders in this business. I'm a stakeholder, not from CIB angle, but as a microfinance person also. I'm connected to some microfinance bank, including that man's own. We are not, unfortunately, but like I think the president said, we need to relook the microfinance bank policy or the regulation again and again. And it should be dynamic. It should be dynamic, it should not be static. So let's do a lot of reviews. I agree with you. The fact that we have a lot of people from the commercial bank, merchant bank setting who came into microfinance banking and they have that mindset of wanting to be to play big boys. I agree, but regulation should also disallow that and discourage that going forward. But we need to look. That young man, I think the treasurer, the Bukuru man, like we said, what's his name? Yeah. Goki didn't want to mention him. He mentioned about a monster microfinance bank that regulates also. I think that they should calculate. They should not just put all our money in that one. They should let the money go around to others too. I know you are not children of the devil, like he said. But I send you a message because you work together with CBA. They should look at that again and again because you have created a monster out of microfinance bank, a favored child who is very profligate in nature. I think that has to be looked at again. Thank you.
The president is a friend of that.
fears of the MD selling back. He mentioned that for us as a group to be seen as a serious one, that we should be working towards self-regulation. And I want to assure him here, and allay his fears, that we have 5 pillars for now. And one of them is self-regulation. Whatever we are doing in order for are working towards achieving that self-regulation. But you know, self-regulation is not something that you can just do one day. First, we discovered that the system that we are running, the knowledge gap is so big, and how do we narrow it? It's through capacity building and development. And I like every day I have the chance, I commend NAMBLAG. They are at the forefront of capacity building. Now, we have seen in the financial sector that you have FITC, Financial Training, Institution Training Center. We've seen that they come up with good, programs, but they are all targeted at commercial banks. You don't blame them. The commercial banks under, through the bankers committee, set up that audit, that. We said they are not looking at our end, and we know the roles that we are playing. So we sat as an association and came up with what we call Microfinance Learning and Development Center. Chief Tayo, my brother here, is the CEO there. He's the one in charge of that outfit. He's the one in charge of that outfit. And no wonder all the accolades they are getting on capacity building is coming from NAMBLAG, where he's also the chairman. That is one. 2, my vice president spoke about the major problem we have in the system, that is liquidity and funding. We have seen there are so many interventions that are coming from the government, targeted and made for our clientele. But the conditions set there for us to attempt to access this funds for our customers are so stringent that we cannot. But we can't just fold our arms because we are in the business and we must service that our sector. So we also went back and they came up with what we call Microfinance Development Company to take care of this wholesale funding wherever we can access funds. Because if we go individually to access funds, all these intervention funds, the conditions our individual banks will not be able to attend to meet. So we set up that company that will have whatever it takes to access funds anywhere, locally and internationally. That is also talking about working towards self-regulation. And then most of the businesses we do, like you said, we see the informal or semi-formal settings. Meaning the risk is very high. Okay, how do we risk ourselves and then our customers? We also came up with an idea and are floating micro insurance company to be owned again by the association through all its members. So these are 3 things that are already there working, and we are now telling you that we are well positioned to really go deep into that partnership that we are looking for, and you should not have any fears dealing with us as a group, because whatever it takes to allay all the fears, we are putting them in place to ensure that we have a very vibrant sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President. And I'm so sure the CIBN President, who is just sitting beside you, has noted a few points. We want to get more involved. We want to get more recognized. We are people with high intellectual capability too, just like the commercial bankers. Let the CIBN also involve us more. Thank you, sir. Of course, the chief host. At least we know now that he's a headmaster of a school, and he's also the MD of a bank, and the chairman of the bank. So,
and data protection is very important, but also can be quite expensive. My organization took a deep plunge. We're working with M1, and I can tell you it runs into millions of naira. But it's important that we keep our data safe. And what Computer and Warehouse Group is offering as co-location is that when anything happens, if the disaster happens in your bank to your data or your computer, you can recover online real time and continue your business like no problem has happened. And if you have not done that, I think we should take advantage of that. The only way people will take us serious in the industry is also to be seen as doing our business with best global practices orientation in mind. And on the final note, I want to thank NDIC. I think we need to see more of this collaboration. Laws should be made in an environment where we know that you're not necessarily looking for culprits, but you're looking for people who have developed the capacity to be able to keep the law so that we can all move on. I mean, we don't want NDIC to work like last month. Last month, we'll put a one-way sign. They will cover it with a piece of paper and wait for you at the end of the line to catch you. So let's do this. We want to be able to work together. We're building a very strong industry. I have no doubt that with microfinance is infinitesimally significant to the opportunities that we're seeing. There's micro pension, there's micro insurance. The institution to drive this is the microfinance bank, and there are huge opportunities. Let's build rules that will make us survive, not kill us. And I'm excited by the comment made by Ajay Tiaka today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my chair. We will definitely hear from the man who
learned a lot about your sector, and I'm glad that the conversation balanced both sides, both the big picture of the outcome from the global and national perspective, and what the government can be, what we can do, to seize opportunities, to pick up the green shoots. And my presentation was that most of the green shoots will be financial, not trade. You should try to fall back to the contrast between real and financial globalization. And all those insightful conversations about the realities, your industry, and the potential opportunities for partnership be very instructive for me. So we're going to be a part to sum up. I do have enough, if not more than enough opportunities to speak to people on all sides of the conversation. I have enough opportunities to engage people in government. I sit on the technical committee of the National Council of Private Television, which held our press meeting this year on Monday. I was in Abuja. And I will report that the NCP, in trying to implement some of these ideas, is currently they put together an interministerial agency to compile a computerized national asset register. It's in progress. It's guided by the Secretary of Government Federation. And the NCP is chaired by the Vice President. The Vice Chair of the NCP is the Honorable Minister of Finance. So at the highest level, they are working on taking steps to financialize. And the way seized the bull by the horn is that before you can financialize anything, you have to know what it is. And they acknowledge what we have acknowledged. Nobody knows the balance sheets of Nigeria. Then he said his presentation. You don't even know the assets. So that register will give the country a computerized register of national assets. That will only make Nigeria join the ranks of about 40 countries out of more than 200 countries. World who know what they want. Most countries don't know what they want. So that's a. However, the fact that they have been told the story and they are working on the story does not eliminate the need for those of us here to also gain clarity on what the story is. So that's why I say that the people who should be in this room are aware. My career as an academic has been mostly in the private sector. LBS was there for 7 years. That was the full-time faculty. So, well, I could have been a lecturer if I was in the university. In the business school, we are not really a lecturer. We were referred to, you don't have students. You know, when somebody like Abu shows up, an ED is a participant. You refer to them, not a student. And you're a facilitator, you are not a lecturer. And frankly, I've seen some of the participants in the classes or sessions that I have facilitated gone on to become Minister of Finance, gone on to become governor of a state, gone off of states, not the state, gone on to become deputy governors of the central bank, become governor of central bank. Are we together? Yeah. So I repeat, those who should hear the message are where? Right here in this room. Thank you very much, sir. And the second part, which is the concluding part, is there's no disagreement, with Dr. Lubiri. But the point to make is there was a time when you could say goods were produced in the country. No good is produced in any country anymore. All goods are made in the world. So the opportunity for you to export goods and services has fizzled out. Because production has been fragmented, export has been fragmented. Even if you grow corn or you grow any seed, it's not made in Nigeria. To the extent that the improved seedling didn't come from Nigeria. The tractor, the fertilizer, the pesticides, so the genetically modified, variants can come from Nigeria. It's not made in Nigeria. It's made in the world. Therefore, for Nigeria, if Nigeria knows what it's doing, it's not trying to say, let's grow more things or go back to the farm. It's let's participate more in global life. And the three ways in which you participate. Three ways in which you contribute to output is platforms, electronic platforms, which is truly global. If you jump on Facebook or you jump on, are you still local or are you global? A new word as a man, say it's global. Okay, it's both local and global. It's a platform. Then places. The world is ranking cities now. First, they were ranking them as global cities. Then they started ranking them as global financial centers. Now they are ranking them as global smart centers. They are looking at top 20. These are global locations, not local. So, and the likes of Dubai are regarded as global smart centers. So we are in Nigeria that was local has become global. That anywhere you want to produce in the world, unless you get to that place, you still haven't started. And the final one is the one that I've identified. Talents is similarly global. So platforms are global, cities are global, talents global. So the three are assets, not output that you produce and sell. Okay, their talents, their assets that you enhance them. The process of enhancing them financializes them. So I agree entirely the comments he had made. The being spread from housekeepers, domestic workers, and export them. India, train doctors. Right now, all of the tech firms in the US have an Indian CEO. That's the estimate to which India has financialized its natural asset, which is its human capital. I thank you all very much.
I want to sell my product and services globally. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. It's time to say thank you to our special guests and speakers. And we inviting Mr. Joshua Kuti, first Vice President of the National Body, to actually assist us to handle a small way of saying thank you.